Welcome to the Country Watch Political Intelligence Briefing Quick Hits, a weekly briefing of hot stories across the world in brief. I'm Denise Youngblood-Coleman, the Editor-in-Chief and Senior International Affairs Analyst at Country Watch. Before I get to the featured country of the week, let me give you a little rundown of some of the big stories I'm covering. In Georgia, former Georgian President Mikhail Saakashvili was arrested after returning home from exile in Ukraine. The pro-Western Saakashvili was the head of state of Georgia from 2004 until 2013. He came to power via the 2003 Rose Revolution and enjoyed mass popularity at the time. In 2018, Saakashvili was convicted in absentia on charges of corruption and abuse of office and sentenced to 6 years in prison. To date, Saakashvili has denied any wrongdoing and insisted that the charges against him have been politically motivated. In October of 2021, Saakashvili returned to Georgia ahead of local elections, despite warnings from the government that the former president would be immediately arrested and imprisoned if he set foot on Georgian soil. For his part, Saakashvili has made clear that he viewed himself to be a political prisoner and would commence a hunger strike. In Austria, Chancellor Sebastian Kurz has resigned amid a criminal investigation. The decision from Kurz came after prosecutors commenced a criminal investigation into allegations he used public money to pay off pollsters and journalists for favorable coverage. Prosecutors accused Kurz of using taxpayer funds between 2016 and 2018 to pay a polling company to produce favorable results and a media company to publish them. Kurz has insisted that there was no wrongdoing. Nevertheless, the left-leaning Greens, who were part of the ruling right-leaning coalition, were unimpressed by this claim and threatened to exit the government unless Kurz's Conservative People's Party chose a replacement to lead the country as chancellor. A possible successor to Kurz in the chancellery would be Foreign Minister Alexander Schallenberg, whom the Greens have indicated would be an acceptable choice. In Germany, exploratory talks between the Social Democrats, the FDP, and Greens to form a so-called traffic light coalition government were productive, and the three parties agreed to formally commence official government formation negotiations. In Cape Verde, voters went to the polls. Once the votes were counted, Jose Maria Neves of the opposition PAICV appeared on track for victory. Moving on to North Korea, in the third week of October 2021, Pyongyang said that it had successfully test-fired a new ballistic missile from a submarine. The state-controlled Korean Central News Agency, or KCNA, confirmed that the submarine-launched ballistic missile had indeed been test-fired from an undisclosed location on October 19th. The KCNA said that the SLBM was launched from the 824 Yeonggum sub, the same vessel from which North Korea's SLBM was tested in 2016. With the United Nations Security Council meeting to discuss North Korea's latest ballistic missile test, North Korea warned the international community that it was tampering with a dangerous time bomb. Moreover, the state-run KCNA published a piece by the North Korean Ministry of Foreign Affairs in which it accused the United States of making provocative moves simply by calling for the emergency meeting of the United Nations Security Council. In fact, one could argue that there should have been stricter enforcement of sanctions against North Korea, which was subject to prevailing prohibitions on testing ballistic missiles and nuclear weapons under international jurisprudence. For her part, United States Ambassador to the United Nations, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, said that North Korea's submarine-launched ballistic missile test was the latest in a series of reckless provocations by Pyongyang that threatens international peace and security. Thomas Greenfield nevertheless offered to meet with North Korean officials without any preconditions and said, "We have made clear that we hold no hostile intent towards the DPRK. Now to the featured country, China. The Financial Times reported that China had tested a nuclear-capable hypersonic missile in August of 2021. The missile circled the Earth before approaching its intended target. The sophistication of the hypersonic missile technology in conjunction with the advanced space capability has caused alarm and consternation for the United States military intelligence community. As of 2021, North Korea was still in its incipient phases of developing hypersonic weapons, but the United States, Russia, and China had already been at this task for some time. In September of 2021, the Pentagon's Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, known as DARPA, announced the successful testing of what it claimed to be an advanced hypersonic missile system. The Hypersonic Air-Breathing Weapons Concept, HAWC, was developed by Raytheon Technologies and Northrop Grumman and would expressly offer next-generation capability to the United States military. Meanwhile, in October 2021, Russia announced that it had successfully test launched a Zircon hypersonic cruise missile from a submarine. Russian President Vladimir Putin applauded the milestone, saying that it was part of a new generation of Russian arms systems. But now it seemed China had conducted a highly advanced test of the hypersonic missile, and even earlier than the United States and Russia. Typically, a hypersonic weapon would be launched using a conventional rocket booster. It would convey a detachable glide body that separates from the rockets. At that point, the hypersonic glide vehicle would no longer be able to accelerate, but it would maintain guiding maneuverability with the aim of hitting the given target. Clearly, the maneuverability aspects and the flight path unpredictability make hypersonic weapons both dangerous and hard to intercept with anti-missile defense systems. United States Air Force Secretary Frank Kendall has warned that China was developing something similar to the Soviet fractional orbital bombardment system. Kendall explained that without having a traditional intercontinental ballistic missile trajectory, an advanced hypersonic weapon could bypass missile warnings and defense systems. He also warned that China was developing the potential for global airstrikes from space. Similar warnings have come from General Glenn Van Herk, the head of the North American Aerospace Defense Command, who noted that China's emerging hypersonic glide vehicle capabilities would provide significant challenges to NORAD capability to provide the threat warning and attack assessment. I want to note that this capability does not automatically translate into China deploying its hypersonic weapons technology aggressively against the United States or another country. It was more likely to be a deterrence activity. China has been placing pressure on China has been placing pressure on Hong Kong and Taiwan, making clear its goal was to return Hong Kong and Taiwan to Beijing's fold. In Hong Kong, from 2020 through 2021, the establishment of draconian security laws have been aimed at curbing the democratic inclinations of Hong Kong residents and augmenting Beijing's control. As regards Taiwan, mainland Chinese authorities announced in October of 2021 that its military had carried out a beach landing and assault drills close to Taiwan. The fact of the matter was that China has regularly conducted military drills, although this fresh activity was being viewed as a measure of intensified pressure by Beijing on Taipei to accept Chinese rule and reinforce its one China policy. With military exercises, it was apparent that Beijing was adopting an increasingly assertive military stance close to Taiwan. The additional revelations about hypersonic missile technology being developed by China would only serve as a tacit intimidation of Taiwan as it presses further than it has before in reinforcing its one China policy. With China not beholden to any arms control deals and given its disinterest in engaging with the United States as regards nuclear programs and policy, the rationale by the Biden administration in making the so-called Pacific or China pivot seems justified. In fact, it seems prudent to refocus on Asia-Pacific region for geostrategic reasons. Central to the China/Pacific pivot was the Biden administration's strategic Indo-Pacific alliance with Australia and the United Kingdom, including the agreement of shared nuclear-powered submarine technology with Australia as part of the Australia-United Kingdom, United States AUKUS Accord. China simply does not have the same kind of deep water submarine warfare capability offered by the United States. In the next week, I will continue to cover revelations related to former President Trump's attempts to overturn the election of 2020, as well as progress on the January 6th Select Committee's investigation. I'll also cover movement on President Biden's bipartisan infrastructure package and the Build Back Better agenda. Other items I'll be covering include Poland's collision course with the EU, Brazil's President Bolsonaro being faced with charges of crimes against humanity for pandemic mismanagement, new revelations regarding the assassination of Haiti's president, the election of Barbados's first president to replace the Queen, the situation in Tigray with regard to Ethiopia. I'll also cover the current situation in Afghanistan with regard to the Taliban. A lot of this coverage on the Taliban can be accessed via my comprehensive Afghanistan withdrawal report called Sunset in the Graveyard of Empires, which will be available for purchase from the Country Watch website at www.countrywatch.com. Thank you for your time. Have a great day. And remember now more than ever, we live in an interconnected world.